Hello there, Internet. Tom Pokenutter here, and a gigantic hello to everybody both on my blog and on DeviantArt. That's right, for the first time ever, a video from my YouTube channel is going to be posted both on my blog and on DeviantArt. Yeah, for those of you who are on my blog and don't know I have a DeviantArt, I have a DeviantArt. I write Pokemon fanfiction there. If you're interested, go check out MD Journal, which is about to have its 30th chapter released, or wait until July for when Blue Snow will start, and you'll be able to have an entirely new story. Just typed out. Ready to go. If you're here on my DeviantArt, I have a blog. I don't know if you've noticed my shameless plugging of it in my signature, but yeah, it's there. I review Pokemon products past and present, and as of now, I have these Hidden Projects vlogs. Now, some of you on both sites are wondering, Tom, what the hell is a hidden project? Probably because you haven't browsed my gallery if you're on DeviantArt, or because you're from the blog and didn't know I do fanfiction. But anyway, on the off chance that you do know what the Hidden Projects series is, which is the fanfiction that I started on DeviantArt, like the very first thing I ever posted, basically, Hidden Projects was a story that I've had for a very, very long time, that I wanted to share with people, and that I thought was actually pretty good when I started. It's time today to officially retire it. Now, a number of close friends of mine, like people I know from Cerebi, or certain members of the Writers of Justice, not saying who, already knew that this was going to happen. I mean, I've mentioned it in passing. It's officially ended. There's just no way I can do it. It's just too large in scale. And furthermore, it's not particularly good. However, I don't think that simply saying it's done is going to be enough. This was my first real Pokemon story. So I've decided to do a series of audio vlogs, if you will. Slogs, if you want. That basically, off the cuff, not scripted, just describing what the series was. Its various iterations, everything there was to know about it. These are going to be my final tribute to the series, and the separation is going to finally be official when Blue Snow starts, because Blue Snow started out as Hidden Projects Expanded Universe. In fact, the first draft of the first chapter is on my DeviantArt gallery. It's a screenplay called Blue Snow OTR that tied into a very late arc of Hidden Projects. But as of the re-release, it is no longer connected to Hidden Projects at all. In fact, borrows some of the elements that didn't suck from it. But basically, I'm going to spend the next couple weeks basically sitting around and discussing, what each iteration was, what the plot was, what my plans were to do with certain characters, and of course, apologies all around. So, over the next couple weeks, starting with this one, I'm going to be uploading these slogs, and just let me know what you think. I mean, it'll be interesting, at least, to see how far I've come, or if I've in fact regressed as a writer. So, let's just start with part 1 today, which is the beginning. Now, Hidden Projects was not my first Pokemon fanfiction. In fact, that goes all the way back to right around the time I was 6 or 7. Come to think of it, it was 7 because, it was the Christmas after Gold and Silver had their stateside release, which was in 2000. And I wrote a little story, 6 pages long. 6 pages scrawled in gigantic letters about a Squirtle that gets biomodded into a Totodile. Because I like Totodile, both Squirtle and Totodile are water-type starters. The connection made sense to my 7-year-old mind. But, yeah, that was kind of where it started. After that, I would occasionally churn out a Pokemon character, and something that I was really big on for a very long time was oral storytelling. Similar to these, off the cuff, But there was a lot of plot planned in advance, which was something that I didn't do that often. And, over the years, I had like 6 or 7 stories that I told my younger sisters, and at the very least, the younger of the two loved them. But, Hidden Projects emerged first as just really a Pokemon story. I mean, that was all it was called, just a Pokemon story. The original idea came together in 2004, I think. It was late 2003, early 2004. Well into the Great Pokemon Drought, which lasted between roughly 2003 and it technically ended in 2010. But at the same time, it kind of leaked out all over the place to the point where I was back into Pokemon in 2005. I mean, I'll eventually explain what that was, but, right now it's not really something that I'm going to share. Bottom line, this was actually the first real thing I'd done with Pokemon since early 2003, and basically the story started off particularly weirdly. A boy named Tori, incidentally spelled the same as the Tori from Destiny Deoxys. The similarity was not intentional. I didn't actually get a look at the back of the box for the VHS box for Destiny Deoxys for a very long time. But basically, Tori is from our reality. And during a teleportation experiment, Professor Oak accidentally swaps the Tori from our universe and the Tori from the Pokemon universe. Unsure of what to do with this kid who randomly shows up out of nowhere and happens to have encyclopedic knowledge of his world due to the whole Pokemon is the biggest media franchise ever, or at least it was to my 10-year-old mind. He basically just sends him on a Pokemon journey. Then things get weird. So, oddly enough, Tori starts his journey off in Vermilion City, and meets a kid named Seth there, who happens to be one of Professor Oak's lab assistants, that decides to show him around the region, in spite of the fact that Tori seems to know where he's going. Now, Seth was the creation of my youngest sister, who has basically requested that any time I mention her in any kind of online thing, she's completely anonymous. So my anonymous youngest sister gives the idea for Seth. And you'll notice this a lot with Hidden Projects, is that a good number of the major roughly half of the major characters were my creation. A little under half were my youngest sister's creation, and there was three characters who were from other people. How did I forget the other two? Basically, in the later stuff, we had Wild Girl, Kyo, and Kudaichi. And Wild Girl was the creation of my middle sister, who, if she's interested when that goes up, was... I'll tell you her name if she decides she wants it said. Anyway, Kyo was put forth by a close personal friend of mine. Again, when the version of the story that it shows up, and I may mention his username. And then Kudaichi was Mikurotai on DeviantArt, something that was actually advertised at the end of each chapter. So, basically we have our two characters, and at one point they run into Team Rocket, and they capture Tori, and they hypnotize him into thinking that he's a Houndoom. And Seth shows up right in the middle of it, and disrupts it. Which somehow hypnotizes Tori's body and mind. I don't know, folks. I don't know at all. But, basically, the story concerned the idea that Tori turns into a Houndoom every night, turns back into a human during the day, but as the story goes on, Tori and Seth are trying to do their Pokemon journey, but as the story goes on, Tori ends up spending more and more time as a Houndoom, to the point where, he turns at the beginning of the story, he turns at about 7 p.m., and then turns back at about 7 a.m. But by the end of the end of the actual story proper, Tori is turning into a Houndoom at about 4 in the afternoon, and turning back into a human roughly around noon. And the mental alteration was much slower to catch up, but it eventually did, and there was actually an epilogue where Tori is completely consumed by the Houndoom, and he, for all intents and purposes, dies. And this is a dark thing for a 10-year-old to write, now that I think about it. Jesus. So, that was the first draft of Hidden Projects. There was a sequel that was in the process of being written, where basically it happens in the time period between the ending of the story and the epilogue. And Professor Oak comes up with what is sort of an antidote, but unfortunately it turns Tori evil. And that story never really went anywhere. A good 2 weeks after it started, inspiration kind of dried up, and I moved on to something else. I don't remember what it was. It might have been Mega Man NT Warrior, not entirely sure. But, yeah, if there's a positive reaction to these Hidden Projects slogs, maybe I'll have a look at taking you down some of the scarier paths of some of my other early fanfiction efforts. But, in a nutshell, that's essentially where this Pokemon story ended up dying. But the idea of a character that turns into a Houndoom was one that would stick with me, and one that I'd want to try and revamp along the road. Now, in the next slog, I'm going to be looking at the second iteration of this Pokemon fanfiction, and the first one that actually had any kind of proper name. It was Tori's story. It was around this time I started looking into alternate spellings of Tori, because I finally see the Destiny Deoxys box. But, yeah, so I'm going to post this up on YouTube, see what you guys think, and, we'll see where we go from there. I hope you enjoy these. Tom Pokenutter out.